Hello everyone, with the Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Thursday evening, November 6, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you all like this video. I'd really appreciate it if you all get this video to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season. That's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so we need to take a look at an expert insight here from Ben Knoll. If you don't know who this is, he's a global weather writer and meteorologist for the Washington Post, who from time to time makes some very accurate posts here on X about what's expected across the Atlantic in terms of tropical cyclone activity, storms, hurricanes in general. So he actually made a post. This was today, as a matter of fact, 9:59 a.m. He stated, rising air is favored across the Atlantic during the second half of November, when there is possibly one more chance for a hurricane this season. History suggests the southwestern Caribbean and west central Atlantic have the highest odds for for storm formation this time of year. So, boy, he's basically highlighting this map. And we know, if we look at this map, we know the blues, the greens into the blues represents a rising air, while the what looks like oranges into the dark greens represents sinking air. Rising air is what these tropical systems want. This is what the thunderstorms want, that they can, collect and develop even more, so that they can become tropical depressions, then tropical storms, then hurricanes. As of right now, for the week of November 7, considering that today is November 6, he's stating that we're in a sinking air phase right now. We see the main development region into the Caribbean right here. Sinking air all across the Atlantic, the Caribbean. A lot of sinking air. If we continue to go out in time now, for November 15, the week of November 15, we're starting to get in on more of the rising air across the Caribbean into the main development region. And even by about the week of November 23, still seeing that we have a mixture of rising air and sinking air across our neck of the woods. But look at that, even as we head into the latter part of the season, heading into the early part of December, we're still expecting some rising air. So he's basically suggesting that the rising air could cause something to develop before we end the hurricane season. Hopefully it's nothing that is going to be affecting Jamaica. And I like the fact that he also stated that history suggests the southwestern Caribbean and west central Atlantic have the highest odds. Just to highlight what we showed a couple days ago, when it comes to the wrapping up of hurricane season, it's usually the Caribbean, the western Caribbean, the southwestern Caribbean that have the most systems forming, because basically the main development region is shut down. We don't really have much tropical waves coming off of Africa this time of year trying to develop, so we definitely have to stay updated to see how it actually plays out. I've been seeing a lot of posts on social media about something coming, this, that, Nestor, this, that, but we have to take those forecasts with a grain of salt. We cannot run with them. If you see people talking about the models and what they're showing, just know that the models have a history of changing, showing something now, and then later on it is showing something completely different, and then all of those talk about storm not really happening at all. So this is why we have to stay updated with what the US National Hurricane Center is showing. And if we go all the way through and we don't see them post a code yellow or something down in here across the Caribbean, then you know that the GFS has dropped that solution. But if the GFS is continuously showing it, if the euro starts to jump onto it, then you know that maybe something could form. And climatology suggests that it's really the Western Caribbean, if not the Southwestern Caribbean, for real. Let us just hope that Jamaica is not affected, considering that what we just got. So according to the latest 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook from the Hurricane Center that just came out at 6:16 p.m. Jamaica time, tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 7 days. And this is the reason why the Atlantic still not showing much of anything at all to worry about. And we know that if something should form, the next name on the list is Nestor. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, you can see a frontal system extending from the eastern US all the way up into the northern portion of North Atlantic. Another frontal system extending from northern portion of the northern Atlantic all the way down to the Bahamas and northeastern Cuba. We see a trough across the eastern Caribbean right in here, ridge of high pressure to the south of the frontal system that we know is responsible for sending all of the winds and the low to mid-level clouds from east to west across the main development region. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before we lost sunlight, we can make out the clouds associated with that frontal system extending down, well, all the way over into portions of the US. We can also see the clouds associated with that other frontal system extending down to portions of the Bahamas and northeastern Cuba right in here. I think we can make out the clouds associated with the trough somewhere in here across the eastern Caribbean. And as you know, we have these clouds associated with the intertropical convergence zone across the main development region. And you can see the clouds are clearly being steered from east to west, all courtesy of that ridge of high pressure to the north. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Thursday, November 6, 2025. It was stated that rainfall could have been in the forecast for parts of some eastern, central, and western parishes in Jamaica on Thursday afternoon. And you know, when we're talking about eastern parishes, we're referring to those parishes in the county of Surrey, like Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew. Central parishes, you know, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, like St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, and St. Catherine. While western parishes, you know, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? Didn't get that much of anything in the morning, but in the afternoon we definitely had that rainfall where it was predicted, because a post was made here not only on our Twitter page with the Jamaica, but it was also made on our Instagram page with the Jamaica, on our TikTok page with the Jamaica, and on our Facebook page with the Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make posts throughout the day that you cannot afford to miss. And as you can see, the visible satellite images definitely confirmed that we had the thunder shower activity, especially across section of some central and western parishes, and the portions of western Portland, Kingston, St. Andrew definitely got on some of the activity too. So it was mainly Hanover, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, especially central to northern St. Elizabeth, sections of northern Manchester, if not St. James, Trelawney, central to southern St. Anne, northern Clarendon, northern St. Catherine, Kingston, St. Andrew, and especially western Portland and southeastern St. Mary. And we can see it all even better on the visible satellite images of Jamaica right here. Before we lost sunlight, all of the clouds popping up like popcorn across especially central and western parishes. And even while we were losing the sunlight, we still had some leftover clouds across especially central Jamaica, and cloud tops were being sheared off towards the east, all courtesy of that upper level wind shear. And we can see the sparkling white dots in there that we know represents some amount of lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes, in and around these cumulonimbus clouds in the blues, greens, yellows, oranges, and reds, all up to the point of recording where we can see that most of it has been dissipating. Taking a look at what took place here, the halfway tree camera from Sea Jamaica's YouTube channel shows that we definitely had some light to moderate rainfall in the halfway tree area today. This was at 4:44 p.m. We see people walking with their umbrellas. The windshield wipers are definitely on these vehicles to show that we definitely had some rainfall to cause halfway tree to be soaking wet in general. So we definitely had some rainfall in the Kingston, St. Andrew area, the eastern parishes that were predicted, but not necessarily far east into eastern Portland or eastern St. Thomas at all. And we definitely have confirmation right here from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website showing where we had that rainfall today, especially across sections of some central and western parishes at most. And we have a few comments that came in from some of our followers on our social media platform about what the weather was like in their area today. We have UG Cooper 1133 stating we had heavy downpour here in Constant Spring Manor Park. Even on our Instagram page, we had reggae.nick stating raining in the west, rural St. Andrew Hills. Even on our, well, I guess that's it. Don't even see any more comments. Oh, wow. Okay, no problem. Let us read out the very latest still image here from the Weather Nerds website. Let us see what's happening right now. Alright, so the latest still image here from the Weather Nerds website is showing 0105 UTC, which is actually 8:05 p.m. So this just came out, 8 minutes ago, considering that it is 8:13 p.m. right now. And as you can see, it's just some leftover clouds from today's afternoon thunderstorms. We see more whitish shades here and there across sections of some eastern section of central and northwestern parishes. But do we actually have rainfall underneath any of these bands? Unfortunately, we don't know, because the Jamaican Doppler radar seems to be working, but it's not really working, not really seeing any form of rain. So I'm guessing the Doppler radar isn't really Doppler radaring at this time. The Cuban Doppler radar that we saw that was glitched out because of Melissa on October 29, maybe they're fixing it right now. We see a lot of Spanish, more than likely an error message right here. So more than likely they're working on it to get it back up and running. So we have to be dependent on the Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar right here, which is showing some rainfall across section of southeastern Cuba, just some blues into the greens that represent some light to moderate rainfall. We're also seeing some rainfall getting up to the yellows that represent some heavy rainfall across northwestern portions of the western peninsula of Haiti. And we even see some of the rain bands right here between Jamaica and Haiti. Regarding the Cayman radar, not making out much of anything across central Cuba or western Jamaica, but we do see some rainfall right here in and around the Cayman Islands, especially the waters to the west of there. And we see some moderate to heavy rainfall out to sea. Taking a look at what's taking place right now, the live camera right here from Sea Jamaica's YouTube channel shows Maypen Clarendon, and we can see the line of taxis right here, and I guess they're looking for passengers, people standing waiting for transportation, people in their vehicles going about their business. And as you can see, it is definitely a fair evening. Nothing to do with bad weather taking place at this time, and I guess that should be the order of the evening into the night. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see that we have 25 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston. Should be a bit warmer than that for sure. Doubt it's that cool right now. And then by about 4 a.m. on Friday, temperature should be down to about 23 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow. This map from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Friday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Friday. And we can see Jamaica right here embedded in the grays that represents average temperatures. And we know the average temperatures for the month of November across Jamaica is around 88 degrees Fahrenheit. And when that's converted to degrees Celsius that we use here in Jamaica, that's around 31.1 degrees Celsius. So that should be the temperature forecast for Jamaica on a Friday. And we don't see any maintenance outage advisories here from my JPS online studio page that we have to highlight, because you know they're over in the west trying to get everybody back on the grid. So nothing to worry about for us over here in the east in terms of a maintenance outage. But if tomorrow is going to be a bit too hot for you, we have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. It stays here. Dress down, wear lightweight clothing and use sunscreen. Check on others, including children, elderly people with medical conditions and pets. Be cool, stay indoors and make use of fans and air conditioners. Avoid alcohol and caffeine as they can make dehydration worse. Limit non-essential strenuous activity during the hottest parts of the day. And I cannot stress enough the importance of staying hydrated throughout the day. Drink lots of water even if you're not thirsty, and put away those sugar drinks and drink water instead. The dry ear map, as you know, the dry ear is represented by what we see here on the key on the bottom. The yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds. And we see a lot of dry ear extending from Africa across the main development region into portion of the Caribbean, especially the northern portion of North Atlantic, all the way into the Gulf. A lot of dry air. We know that the dry air is responsible for keeping the atmosphere stable, making it harder for us to get clouds, making it harder for us to get rainfall in general. And that's what we want more of. We want more dry air so that we don't have to worry about any rainfall affecting those persons without roofs. And regarding the Saharan dust forecast for the next 3 days, so we're heading into November 7, November 8, and November 9. And as you can see, the Caribbean should be in the clear, not much in the way of Saharan dust. There's some slight Saharan dust in the greens pushing through, but you see the more it pushes west, the more it dissipates into nothing at all. And you know, the vigorous plume of Saharan dust is represented by the oranges into the pinks, and we don't see that at all pushing through the Atlantic. So we have nothing to worry about in terms of Saharan dust at this time, because you know that the Saharan dust can definitely cause hazy skies, not to mention trigger respiratory illnesses in people. So we're glad that that's what we're seeing right now. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we're seeing the northwestern Caribbean into portion of the Greater Antilles shaded in some light shades of blues, then the central and southwestern into the eastern Caribbean shaded in the blues, and the light shades of blues represents 0.5 meter wave height. The blues represents maybe 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights. To the east of the Leeward Islands, for the most part, we're seeing more pinks than anything else. That's 2 to 2.5, maybe even up to 3 meter wave heights. And that is because of the winds that are expected. We see more of an easterly flow of the winds, averaging anywhere from 10 to 15 knots, maybe even gusting up to 20 knots. So we see these slight yellows right here. And if we zoom in on Jamaica's wave forecast for tomorrow, to the north of Portland tomorrow, 0.7 of a meter wave height expected. To the north of St. Anne, the same thing. To the north of Hanover, 0.3 of a meter wave height expected. To the south of Westmoreland, 0.4 of a meter wave height expected. To the south of Clarendon, 0.6 of a meter wave height expected. To the south of St. Thomas, 0.8 of a meter wave height expected. And that is because of the winds that are expected. We see more of an easterly flow of the winds, averaging about 5 knots right here to the north of Portland, averaging 9 knots right here to the north of St. Anne, averaging 11 knots to the south of St. Thomas, averaging 10 knots right here to the south of Clarendon. And we see where the air is expected to pile up. It looks like it's coming more east-southeasterly, in terms of the compass direction. So that could mean the air could be piling up tomorrow across section of some northern and northwestern parishes. That is where we could have some of these low-level clouds becoming mid-level rain clouds, if not upper-level cumulonimbus clouds during the afternoon. So look out for that rainfall if you're in the northwest, and the upper-level winds, just like today, looking to be coming out of the west. So we could get more of these cloud tops being sheared off towards the east, if not the east-southeast, like that, if we get some thunderstorm to formulate. And regarding the actual rainfall forecast maps, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both valid for 4 p.m. Jamaica time. And as you can see, the very areas that we predicted the rainfall to be, definitely across especially northern and western parishes. The Euro is showing that rainfall across most areas, but I'm working with what the GFS is showing. The GFS is more accurate regarding the afternoon rainfall, and we're seeing the blues that represent rainfall across sections of northern St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, section of St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, and even section of western Portland, getting in on some of the action, and even a speck of blue right here to the east of St. Thomas. So who knows, maybe something coming in from the east into St. Thomas. We'll see. And even the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps here are in agreement that there should be some rainfall somewhere in Jamaica tomorrow. Both maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Friday. And we're not really seeing much of anything on the Euro, just some slight shades of greens to greens, from 0.1 of an inch of rainfall up to 0.2. The GFS, however, is showing the brunt of the rainfall within the next 24 hours, especially across the northern and western ends. We're seeing more yellows than anything else, getting up to 0.33 up to 0.39 at most. We'll see how it plays out, and whatever happens, we just have to take it. We're in the month of November, and in St. Anne, whose bar graph is being shown right here, we just receive 136 millimeters of rainfall this month. That's about the same as 5.4 inches of rainfall. In Clarendon, we usually receive 113 millimeters of rainfall in November. That's about the same as 4.4 inches of rainfall. And if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of November or for the entire year, you can visit this website right here. That's nomadseason.com, and that website will show you that information. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us according to the latest Euro and GFS supercomputer model runs that came out today. So let us load up the 12-0, and I don't even want to see the 18-0. And we're just going to be going on to the next 7 days here on the Euro. We're starting with Saturday, since we just looked at Friday. And as you can see here, keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top. We're just going on to the next 168 hours. That stands for the next 7 days. Keep your eyes focused on Jamaica right here as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens represents inches of rainfall. So let's see what's going to be taking place. Alright, so 12 on Saturday is actually 7 a.m. We're seeing some moisture to the north of Jamaica. We're seeing some moisture across for eastern Jamaica. And then on Saturday afternoon, we're seeing that moisture across eastern, central, western parishes. What does the GFS show? For Saturday morning, we're seeing rainfall across the far eastern end. For Saturday afternoon, we're seeing rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, western parishes on the GFS. What does the Euro show for Sunday morning? For Sunday morning, we're actually seeing some moisture across the far eastern end of the island. Then on Sunday afternoon, we're seeing rainfall across sections of some central western parishes. What does the GFS show? For Sunday morning, not really seeing much of anything. For Sunday afternoon, what are we seeing? It doesn't seem like much of anything at all. Maybe some specks of green across the southern parishes. What do we see on Monday morning? On the Euro, we're seeing moisture to the south of us and across the far eastern end. Then on Monday afternoon, we're seeing rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show for Monday morning and afternoon? Monday morning, not much of anything, whites. Then on Monday afternoon, we're seeing rainfall across eastern parishes. What do we see on Tuesday morning on the Euro? On Tuesday morning, we're seeing a lot of moisture across section of the island associated with the frontal system that we've been talking about for the past several days. What do we see on Tuesday afternoon? Still getting somewhat of rainfall across sections of especially northern and western parishes. And look at the bout of moisture to the west of us, spilling into Central America. They're definitely going to be getting a lot of rainfall if this actually verifies. What does the GFS show? For Tuesday morning, we see that moisture surrounding the island. Then on Tuesday afternoon, we're seeing that moisture across especially central and eastern parishes. What do we see on Wednesday morning? On Wednesday morning, we're seeing rainfall across some northern and eastern parishes. And then on Wednesday afternoon, we're seeing rainfall across sections of some central and western parishes. And we're going to be stopping right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for Thursday, November 13, 2025. And we're seeing the moisture across some northern and eastern parishes. What does the GFS show? For Tuesday, well, for Wednesday into Thursday, first of all, Wednesday morning, a lot of moisture to the north of us into northeastern parishes. The waters to our west as well. Then on Wednesday afternoon, we're seeing that moisture across eastern, central, and western parishes. And look at this. Something within the next 7 days down in here across the southwestern Caribbean. Something trying to formulate maybe an area of low pressure. We see a red L, 1003 millibars. Don't really see that thing down there on the Euro, but we do see a kind of isobar circle somewhere. We'll see it plays out. And we're stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. And look at that. At the end of the 168 hours, whatever that was starts to push into Nicaragua. And we don't really see much of anything across Jamaica at that time. We'll see it actually plays out. And whatever happens, I'll definitely be here to keep you posted if that occurs. And even the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps are in agreement that within the next 7 days, from now up until Thursday, November 13, we're seeing that the brunt of the rainfall should be wherever we have the dark reds into the purples, into the pinks, into the peaches, into the slight blues. That represents what we see here on the key on the right. That's 2 all the way up to maybe 8, maybe 10 inches of rainfall. And we see a lot of that to the west of Jamaica, into the Cayman Islands, section of Belize, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama. And we see that the GFS is showing something similar, while other areas are shaded in the greens, yellows, oranges, and reds. That's up to an inch of rainfall or less for most of the rest of the Caribbean. In terms of Jamaica's precipitation forecast totals for the next 7 days, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now until Thursday, November 13. And we see that majority of Jamaica is shaded in the blues, into the greens, into the yellows. That represents anywhere from 10 millimeters all the way up to 30 millimeters of rainfall. The GFS showing something similar, with the brunt of the rainfall across the far eastern end. Up to the yellows, maybe representing 30 to 40 millimeters of rainfall. The GFS getting into the oranges, maybe up to 50 to 60 millimeters of rainfall. We'll see it actually plays out, and whatever happens, I will definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs. Taking a look at what's happening across the rest of the basin. Not really seeing much of anything across the Caribbean. We take a look at the Doppler radar imagery, however, near Puerto Rico, what do we see happening down there now? We're seeing some moisture to the northwest of the island of Puerto Rico, some moisture right here in and around the US and British Virgin Islands, just some hit or miss, light to moderate rainfall. The Barbados radar right here showing some moisture, hit or miss rainfall in and around the area, some moderate to heavy rainfall pushing into sections of eastern Barbados as we speak. We see some moisture right here pushing into sections of Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad, and Tobago. We see that moisture pushing from east-west. We can see that moisture even better here on the weather view of Doppler radar images. You can also see some moisture associated with the frontal system pushing from west to east into Florida. We see some moisture into the Yucatan and sections of the waters to the east of Nicaragua too. And regarding where the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours. Both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are in agreement. There should definitely be some rainfall wherever we have the greens into the yellows, into the oranges and the reds. That's an inch of rainfall or less for portions of the Bahamas, Cuba, the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Martin, Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Montserrat, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, section of Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Suriname, section of Venezuela, so to Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Eastern Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize, sections of the Yucatan, and even portion of Belize. And we clearly see, well, an even portion of Guatemala. And we can clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS modes are in agreement with this forecast. I know that when they're in agreement like this, the chances are higher for it to actually take place. Alright, so regarding what's taking place across the Eastern Pacific, not much of anything. Tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 7 days, and this is the reason why. Eastern Pacific just has some clouds here and there across the intertropical convergence zone. Nothing organized or trying to organize at this time. I wonder that if something should form, the next name on the list over there is Sonia. But we're still watching in the Western Pacific, and we've been talking a lot about Typhoon Kalmaigi. It lashed the Philippines, causing so much damage, and it actually made landfall today in the Vietnam area right here. And we're still watching the newly formed tropical storm Fong Wang. Fung Wang, I don't know, maybe I'm butchering that storm's name, but it was a tropical depression number 32 yesterday. It is tropical storm Fong Wang, and we can see them right here. Kalmaigi pushing into Vietnam. Tropical storm Fong Wang right here, definitely looking formidable as it starts to strengthen. Regarding the latest here on Typhoon Kalmaigi, we can see definitely pushing into Vietnam. We actually have some footage of the damage that it's causing as we speak. But as you know, as soon as it pushes into land, it's going to be dissipating. As of right now, it is packing 100 knot winds. We know that systems that pack anywhere from 96 to 112 knot winds are classified as category 3 hurricanes. So who knows? Maybe it was at category 4 status before landfall. I don't know, but this is what it is showing as of right now, making landfall. And as you can see, back to 45 and back to 20 knots, downgrading the more it pushes towards the west northwest. And we have footage. I mean, first of all, weather monitor here on Twitter. If you haven't been following this page, you need to fix that. So they posted today, this morning, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. declared a state of emergency after Typhoon Kalmaigi devastated central Philippines, killing at least 114 people and leaving 100 missing, the nation's deadliest disaster this year. And look at the footage. I mean, all of this is from flooding, Look at the place. It was just on the border of tropical storm, if not hurricane status, when it made landfall in the Philippines. A lot of rainfall. Look at the way in which the cars are piled up. They definitely got it. A lot of rainfall, biblical kind of floods is what they got because of this storm. And we also have another post right here. Now they're highlighting what's happening in Vietnam. They say the Typhoon Kalmaigi has caused strong winds that broke multiple glass panels at Hai A Hotel, which continues to face the storm's impact in Quang Ninh Ward, Vietnam. I mean, this is what hurricanes do. I don't know, maybe some people will finally have some epiphanies and realize that glass windows they need to be put away with. Bring back walls, bring back windows, wooden windows, because or make some installation of some those strong glass windows that aren't going to be breaking and all of those things. Because boy, look at that, shattering and then glass breaks, and then that's how people hurt themselves. We also have another footage right here. Large waves from Typhoon Kalmaigi hit homes in Tam Quan Hoi Non district. Can't even pronounce these places' names correctly in Vietnam. As seawater overflowed embankments, locals report the highest water levels in 10 years, forcing families to move to safer homes. And this is what storm surge does. Storm surge, as you know, has to do with the big waves coming from the sea because of the strong winds being, swirled around by the center of circulation. So it makes sense that we have storm surge coming into areas. And we also have another footage right here. Typhoon Kalmaigi tore the roof off a home of a 4-person family, including an elderly member, in the Toe Phuoc Commune, GLI Vietnam, they remain on the porch with rescue blocked by strong winds. I mean, Kalmege, the 13th storm to hit Vietnam this year a few hours ago. Wow. Just to show you that they've been getting hit all year. Vietnam been getting storms this year. It's crazy. And there we have the footage. Roofs ripped off, damage here and there. My goodness gracious. People are just, they can't stand it. Another one right here. Well, I guess it has no caption. But what is this? See some people on their roofs. My goodness gracious. Moving on to newly formed tropical storm Fong Wong. What a funny name. Looking quite formidable right here to the east of the Philippines. It is expected to push up towards the west-northwest and develop into a 105 knot hurricane. 105 knot hurricane. There's a front notice packing 45 knot winds. Systems that pack anywhere from 34 to 64 knot winds are classified as tropical storms. If it's going to be making it up to 105 knots, so that's expected to make it up to category 3 status. And we see that that's going to be done around the time of landfall. I mean, this is where it's expected to be by November 8. Then we see that by November 9, it should be making a landfall in Manila. In the northern Philippines right there, boy, they can catch a break, and it looks like it's going to be curving northwestward, then northward. Then who is next in line? Will it be China? Will it be Taiwan? We have to highlight these parts of the world because we know that we have friends or relatives from the Caribbean who work over there. So we definitely have to stay updated to see how it actually plays out. And I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.